Okay, thanks. Start again. Yes, it is December 13th. I'd like to call the meeting of the Bennington County Solid Waste Alliance together at 4 p.m., 4:01 p.m. And as we don't have a quorum right at the moment.
We do now.
Oh, we do?
Rob just joined us, so we're good now.
Oh, we do have a quorum. Okay. The first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of the last two meetings, as we did not have a quorum for the previous meeting. And do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Okay, second? I'll second. All right. Are there any changes? We can deal with September 13th first. Are there any changes, corrections, or modifications to the minutes for September 13th? No. All in favor of accepting those minutes, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Second are the minutes from, what was that? I guess it was June, right? I'm sorry, June was the last meeting. So we accepted the previous one. So this is for June 14th. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes as written? Okay, and second? Second. All right. Any changes or corrections on June 14th minutes? All in favor of accepting them as written, please say aye. 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 Opposed? All right. Minutes have been accepted.
Great.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Glad you could join us here. Thanks for filling in, Dan, while Stu had another commitment. So I just want to go over real quick, quarter one spending. So we've spent 28% of our annual budget in the first quarter of FY24. Majority of that going in staff and outreach. Staffing hours were higher because just getting everything settled and organized with the household hazardous waste facility in August and September. I ended up putting in front loading a lot of my hours for the year. So that's largely where that comes from. We still have everything else is kind of in line with spending as we'd expect. A little more outreach going on in the fall. Of course, we don't really do too much outreach spending in the winter, in quarter three. So, again, everything here is sort of in line with our annual spending, and we tend to spend a little bit more in the first quarter than we do in other quarters historically. There was so that's table one, just general expenses and income. Table two is the actual household hazardous waste facility. The other thing too that affects this slightly is there were a number of expenses and that were determined at the last meeting for us to include in our annual operating budget, as opposed to things that I had initially expected to include in the grant cycle. But for the sake of everything being clean and simple, and the sake of all the numbers being clear, based on the advice of the board from last week, I rolled those into our annual operating budget expenses, as opposed to these were all expenses that were not reimbursable by the state because they took place after July 31st, but they were generally for facility development. So there are a few things on here, including ramp repair, welding, and forklift works, a couple of other things, folding chairs, hydraulic oil, not much, everything under $2,000 worth of expenses. But all that was rolled into our general operating budget, and aren't things that we necessarily will expect to spend money on again in the future. So everyone will get the sort of the full amount reimbursed there. But yeah, this is quarter one spending, and we did have one more month of operations. And October was a long month this year, so I think we had 5 Mondays in it. So there will be some additional, HSW facility expenses in the Q2 report when that comes out. And especially the setup fees and the actual disposal of waste fees will all be recorded within that. Mostly be recorded in that Q2 because we didn't get operational until 1 month into Q1. Just I'm reviewing that HW facility expenses. So final totals then for the way that the grants will be reimbursed. If you look at our, we did not receive the check in Q1 of, we did not receive the check in Q1 from the state as far as the $64,000 that is due for us for reimbursement. But the amount of it has been confirmed. I got all the paperwork and everything set up now. There were some additional follow-up I had to do earlier this month, but everything is now set, and I got confirmation that it has been paid, and that we are going to be getting everything. Everything they said this week or so, but we shall. That check will come through from the state for those funds, and then once we also can total out our operating budget for the facility for the year, then we'll also apply for the other states. Doug here for household hazardous waste, also from A&R. So the first, so basically just the main things for the towns to look at are here's the amount of money we collected for the facility. Here's the final share for their reimbursement. Here's what everyone paid for the facility. And then there's a state reimbursement, and then we put the surplus that we didn't pay from that money you paid collected with the reimbursement from the state. Then sort of the last column is what every town has got due to them coming back. So different towns have chosen to do things differently, and I'm gonna now that the money is imminent, I'll make sure to get a clear signal from the ones that I have not gotten specific formal requests for. So far, really only Bennington has requested specifically that a check be written, and Pownell has requested that they get credit applied towards their account for SWIP billing. So that's effectively, that will be how we apply each town individually based upon your town's wishes. So main thing in this chart here on the third chart is for you guys to take back, say you have this much money coming back to you, and then it will be, yeah.
All right.
Do you see Powell on that chart?
No.
And Powell's not on this chart. I apologize for that. That is also why the math does not add up to 64. I will make sure to reissue this chart and email it to everybody with Powell on it as well. I did send you individually though in a separate email correspondence. I did email you that your numbers. So I did do them, but somehow I must have hidden that column or something. So my apologies for that, Tom. But
all right.
Everything else.
I thought I got kicked out.
And wasn't yours $30,000 reimbursement?
42, I thought. That's the point.
Okay. And that's pretty much that as far as the Q1 financials and what to expect. One other thing, I also added a fourth chart here, just because it is the time when a lot of the towns are doing their budgeting for the year. And just to remind everyone what sort of your town's share of the BCSWA budget is. I looked back at our documents that I handed out in June when we put together the budget, and this chart was not included in them. So I just wanted to make sure to include it now, which is, so you just know what your share for our annual budget is. And then again, it'll be this, plus whatever, your minus whatever your reimbursement is, if that's what your reimbursement is going to be, or just expect a check as credit there. Great. So any questions about the financials?
Looks reasonable.
Great. Next thing is permanent household hazardous waste facilities site end of season operations. So at the end of the season, we did 225 appointments. We were open from July 31st until October 31st. We have a max of about 18 per day. The first month we're coming in less than that. We had some issues with our booking, the way that the calendar app was set up on the internet, and we kind of needed to go back and if you look at the expenses, there's an extra additional $500 spent to get that functioning properly from our website team. And despite the challenges, we did get 225 appointments in. Plus, we also got 3 very small quantity generators, 2 small businesses, and the town of Arlington Fire Department made some drop-offs of other equipment. So we got a good amount together there. The amount of waste that we collected has not been fully tallied yet. On December 6th, they came and they emptied out most of the waste that we collected, but their truck was not big enough that they brought. So we legally have 3 months from date of close, as far as federal guidelines go, for us to empty out the facility. So we've got another appointment set up for the second week in January to finish cleaning it out. They couldn't get us in before the end of the calendar year, but that won't affect any of our numbers because the state wants us to report on everything we collected for the calendar year, but we don't actually need to report that until June. So as long as our numbers are all clustered together and we're not mixing seasons together across calendar years, it's not a problem. I'll just take the totals as far as our collection numbers go there. That's effectively where we're at. There's a few things I'd like to talk about, I guess, when thinking about planning for the next season. Sort of some lessons learned and whatnot, but I'll give you guys a more formal breakdown with specific budget numbers once all of the disposal costs can be factored into one clear set of numbers for you to see, which unfortunately I wasn't able to get together at this point yet because the waste did not get collected, and all of it did not get collected yet. So expect that at our meeting that we generally have planned in February, and we can sort of go over the budget. And also for that same meeting, I hope to have a much more clear plan and a budget for the 2024 operating season. And I want to get a little bit of guidance from you guys today as I plan that, and then I can come back with either a set of options for you or or just sort of the plan as it is for you guys to see and understand based on the numbers. So just to be clear, like I said, we had 225 appointments, which is laudable. But our limit that we can have is 18 per day for operations. So the state requires us to legally be open between May through October, which in the 2024 season is going to be a minimum of 19 weeks. That will be 1 week in May, 1 week in October, and then all the weeks in between, which would make us have a capacity max of 342 appointments. This is substantially less than what we served when we did whole events. So I just want to make that clear for everyone that our capacity is diminished at the facility to serve a number of people. I think ultimately what we're going to see is that's going to also lower our costs because disposal costs are a large part of our things. But we'll see if people are dropping off more waste or not, or if the sort of per capita disposal rate is any different. I will look at that as well. But So that's 342 appointments, which is, again, about half of the 613, not quite half, but 613 households that we serve between our 3 events in 2022. I just wanted to get a sense as to whether we wanted to continue with our plan to sort of run the season as short as legally required. We are by the state in order to do cost savings, or whether we wanted to consider maybe expanding that to all of May, maybe a 25-week season that would be then, which would be 450 appointments potentially. And also if there are any other things I might want to consider, such as some asking if Heritage might be available for some supplemental weekend appointments. This is something that was specifically asked of me by the Bennington Select Board. Representatives Janine Connor and Jenny Jenkins both reached out to me and asked if it was possible to look into providing some weekend service on occasion, for residents who cannot make it, cannot take off of work for appointments. So I kind of want to just open a discussion about that with everybody to see what their feelings are.
So what are the days during that time period? Are there 2 days a week of each of those weeks?
So it's still, when I say max of 342 appointments, for the shortest option, that's assuming we continue the operations the exact same way at one day a week.
It's just 1 day a week.
Right. And what we approved the budget for, and again, the budget just is only runs for the first couple months of operations, not for the entire season, because our budget is split with the fiscal year, and our operation season is half and half there. But I did, estimate the budget based on the same labor rates of having 1 day a week service, and it also being the minimum amount of time. So just so just so we know, that's also sort of where we were planning there.
I kind of suggest we run it like you had planned one right this year, because we did this past year is nothing we could really base on because it's so short, and everything. Let's just go with what you want to do, and then we'll find out next and the following year. It's going to take a little fine tuning.
And what week did we open? What was the week
we opened July 31st this year.
So we were
3 weeks short, of whatever, what we would have paid for the first season. But we also extended the season all the way until October 31st. So, we weren't legally required to by the state to operate until October 31st, only until 1 weekend in October.
So next year it'll be the first week of October will be the last week. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can plan for that, or we can plan for for a slightly more service if that's what we want, and extending the service on the far side of the season is actually easier for us to budget for, because then I just work that into our budget for FY25.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say to explore the cost options per the request of the Bennington Select Board is a good idea to at least look into whether it's a possibility or not. We should know if that's a service we can hire and an approximate cost or whatever.
Yeah. And that may also be a service that we don't have to change our existing budget for if we don't provide that until July 1st.
Yeah, let's figure that out to maybe do with the idea of maybe doing a couple of Saturdays after that July 1st in the next budget.
Okay.
So that we can have I think this is an obviously valuable service to the public, that one of the things that's going to make the service level similar to what people are getting and expecting in the past is going to be at least some availability on a Saturday. And the Bennington Select Board is very much on to something with this. And if it's not possible, if it's going to be cost prohibitive, no big deal, but we should at least know what it is. We should have at least an idea of what the costing is going to be for tacking 3 weeks on at the end of the season to go to the end of October as well. Just knowing that if the volume's that far down, we know that there could be volumes building somewhere, and that can be a ticking time bomb somewhere in the scaling.
Dan, what's the hours on Saturday at the dump? Your transfer station.
They close at noon, but the facility hasn't had an issue with us staying, locking up behind them so far. The folks at Casella have given me all of the information, and I know that if I'm there to sort of wrap up, it's probably not an issue. I may or may not need to be on site, personally for those Saturdays from between the hours of noon and when we close at 4. If again our hours remain exactly the same, but yeah, I would also just double check that. I imagine Casella would want me to be on site on those Saturdays, which
Somebody
also
should be,
a
because
problem.
if people come in and use a facility that we're supposed to be there, we're not responsible for that. That's the thing.
Yeah, they probably want, again, me to sort of, I don't know if I'd be allowed in the scale house or whatnot, but me to facilitate the flow of traffic at the gateway, while our field chemists, as they're called, work the actual facility.
Another question. Do you have any records of how many of the days that we were open, we had more than 18 people apply for opening?
So I can't get a record as to when we had more than 18 people apply, because a lot of people just rolled over and, got another week later on in the calendar. It's hard for me to estimate that. I do know that, at the end of the season, we had a wait list of like 8 or 9 people that had like called me up and said, if anyone cancels, please let me know. But I think that was more inspired by the fact that there was a firm closing date. Yeah, it's difficult to know. I do have to say that once we got the calendar app working, we did not have an issue filling up any of our appointments.
So they were all 18 a day.
They were basically all 18.
I mean,
Yeah, there was a couple of cancellations here and there, or people who didn't show up to an appointment, especially if the weather was inclement. But yeah.
I also think a factor was just getting the word out that
Sure.
it even existed, and we'll have that cumulative amount of time leading up to the opening of next year to keep getting the word out, and just more of the general public knowing that it's there for their use will also increase the volume of traffic I think you'll get.
Yeah. And we did also receive on any given Tuesday, on any given Monday, rather, excuse me, a number of people who, showed up and said that they had an appointment when they did not. So that's one of the lessons learned is to make it a little more clear in our literature which days of the week we are specifically open and that it is an appointment like to be done, and also to make sure that the folks at the transfer stations, when they're relaying that information, understand how to relay that very clearly. Yes. Other things I learned as well is I want to make sure I get more collection times. We ended up filling the facility faster than I anticipated. It has storage capacity, but after about 3 weeks, it needs to be full. And there's 2 aspects of that. One is a little more close attention to the staff from Heritage to make sure that they are bulking the materials. It's in their best interest if they loose pack all the barrels instead of bulk the barrels, which means they stick the bottles of antifreeze in a 55-gallon drum without pouring them off into it only being the liquid. And so just keeping an eye and making sure that the things that are appropriate for them to be bulking get bulked as well, especially because the staff was inconsistent from week to week. At the end of the season, everyone kind of knew what was going on, but making sure that my staff onboarding with Heritage people when they came in is a little more clear is also very important. So making sure we set time aside in the morning to make sure everyone's on board beforehand is important there.
Sounds like it was a good start. Good job.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so based on Nick's suggestion, then I'll come together with the proposals, and I'll reach out to Heritage and see what they say about a few Saturday dates. And we'll move forward from there. Great. So the next thing is to talk about Discover Books collection sites and installations. So for those of you who missed last board meeting, Paula has been reaching out to local libraries and to the local transfer stations in order to see if anyone is interested in participating in the Discover Books program, which is effectively drop boxes being placed in various areas so they're accessible to the public for people to drop off books, the same way that Impact Apparel does that with clothing, or just a number of other of those metal drop boxes that you see, or I guess various people do for I guess the Boy Scouts do for cans and bottles, at some places and things like that. So we did get some responses from local transfer stations. The list is here. So Pownell, Bennington, Sunderland, and the North Shire have all signed up and been on board. There's probably nothing else to report on that right now. Discover Books said they would be in contact with them to do the next follow-ups, but I guess with it being the holidays or maybe some other things they're dealing with right now, they have not reached back out to Tom and the other folks at the heads of transfer stations yet. But we will let you know when those are being installed, and then when we can sort of promote them to the public as available.
Collection bins they're supplying.
Yes, there's a picture on the back side of it. This is black and white, but it's a dark solid blue color, like that box. And it's something that is, they determine based on communication with each site, the volume of deposits that is made, so that there isn't stuff that overflows. They'll come as frequently as once a week if it fills up that fast, or every few weeks or a month or whatever.
So there's not a window in it so people can take a book if they want.
No, it's not a tiny library. No, and I'm still imploring to any of the towns that have contacts with libraries. I got responses from 4 libraries in which they said their boards were not interested at this time, maybe in the future. And I think they're going to want to wait to see what type of success is known from this program before they go further. I know Dorset Library said they were worried about architectural heritage restrictions of gaudy blue boxes on property and how it sits with the aesthetic of the town. So that was one reason why they didn't want to step up. Others would just say, let's wait and see. We're not completely against it. I did not talk to real tiny libraries because Discover Books did say that they had a limit as to how far and wide they would travel to do all the pickups when we have rural areas that are hard to get to. So I did not approach Searsburg or Stamford for those programs.
And Discover Books, they actually sell the books that are sellable.
Yeah, I just bought some online for my sister. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is
Christmas.
that is how that supports how the program is funded.
They pride themselves on having never put books in a landfill. They find some use for the books, so that either if it's not usable, they do recycle them, but they never put the material in the landfill. So they hopefully continue doing that.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is Fix It Fun at the Bennington Library. You want to talk about that a little bit, Paula?
Sure. Fix It Fun is a project that has been done by a number of different solid waste management entities, all over the country. And I have a template that I acquired a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago from Central Vermont Solid Waste Management District, and I shared with the Bennington Free Library, and there is a very passionate person within the organization, a couple of them that were willing to take on the project, which we would help support, but they would execute. And essentially is a community fix-it day for volunteers who have some talent in repair, whether that be computers, electronics, sewing, mending, reconstruction of some furniture piece or something, anything that can be fixed with little cost involved. And So what we're doing right now is working with them to build a program first of a cadre of volunteer technicians that have the talent to do the repairs, as well as volunteers to work the event, which will be on February 17th. That's a Saturday at the Bennington Free Library from 11 to 4. And it is entirely voluntary. There's no money changing hands as far as any compensation. There may be some fees charged for repair pieces if there is something involved that requires a cost. They are asking for donations just to help cover those fees if necessary, and also seeking donations probably of food to feed the technicians and volunteers that day. So we're putting out words on notices on social media, and I know the Bennington Free Library is doing it through their channels as well. So stay tuned regarding that.
And this is something that the library envisions as a event they want to do in multiple years. You know, right now this is sort of a dipping your toes in the water, but according to the staff librarians, really these things get underway and people understand that they exist sort of around year 2 or year 3. You know, one of the other things that reached out, like she said, you know, they're looking for some donations. The library did apply for a grant to help reimburse some of the makers and repairers for some of the material costs they're going to bring in. And this is an item that I just want to let you know, I may work into the budget for next year as a potential way for us to support repair as another option. You know, and this may be an event that it might be worth throwing $1,000 or $2,000 towards to help people reimburse so they can, you know, get some money back if they buy cords for people to bring in lamps or gears for people that want to repair a small clock or something like that. So again, not something that I think we need to financially support this year, but something worth considering as a potential worth of financial support in the future.
So do you have all the folks lined up, the technicians?
No, we're just starting within the last couple of weeks of just starting to put the word out. It's not till February. So
we've only got 2 or 3 technicians that have sort of volunteer support. Actually, I can send you a letter about it as well, and maybe someone from Abacus who'd be interested in volunteering.
Yeah, anyone.
Anyone.
Yeah, that's got talent.
So anyone who has talent, yeah, we're trying to get the word out.
And other solid waste management entities have commented that it's not something that really diverts a lot of material from landfill, but it's a great community event at keeping people connected and helping them understand, you know, finding the highest and best use of an item. So it keeps from the landfill, but it doesn't divert a whole lot of material in the long run. It's a lot of effort, but it's a good community event. So.
Well, if you have it once a week, it might.
I don't think the library's up for that, but yeah. Well, that's a separate enterprise you put on Main Street then at that point.
Well, then it's an enterprise.
Yeah.
It's not a fix-it fun.
Right.
It's a fix-it job.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Yeah. If you can send me the information on that. That'd be great.
Sure. And I'll there's a nice graphic that the library put together. I'll email it to the towns and they can put it on their town pages. As well as another event that we have coming up. I'll go into more detail with my update.
Great.
Excellent. Sounds great.
Yeah, I guess and otherwise outreach and events update. You want to talk about your end of season, end of year activities?
Sure. So my contract year is coming to an end here, where all my deliverables are to be delivered by the 15th of December. So reporting out here throughout the 2023 year, I provided outreach to 41 businesses, 11 event organizers, and 3 schools as required by my contract. And in addition, I hosted booths at 18 separate farmers markets to try to make connections with the public. I hosted a webinar on food scrap diversion for event organizers, as well as this past weekend, I hosted a live presentation at the Bennington Free Library about Recycling 101. We had a couple dozen people attend. It was great and was filmed by Cat TV to help reach those that could not attend, as well as just put it on our library for folks to review in the future. This past spring, I also hosted a booth at the Manchester Energy Committee's Earth Day Fair and produced a 3-minute video on recycling for them. I reviewed and updated all the BCSWA handouts that we use for outreach with updated information related to drop-off locations and um, um, program management rules and regulations that we give to folks, and any changes were also updated to the website. Assisted Scott, obviously, with the HHW facility, doing all of the press releases, and he did as well the social media posts, radio ads, flyer distributions, sign postings, and also filmed a segment together of Trash Talk for Cat TV after the facility opened. Collaborated, and I'm continuing to collaborate with members of the Bennington Energy and Climate Advocates Committees to plan a compost summit in the spring of 2024. They're looking to do their part to try to improve organics diversion, and we're looking at ways also to use that as a springboard to extend outreach in different ways by finding ways to maybe partner collectively to do regular 500-word or articles in the Bennington Banner and other outlets to spread the word about the importance of diversion. Created and distributed 4 quarterly e-newsletters both to the school population and to the general public, and continued updating and maintaining the Facebook and Instagram pages with regular postings. The other thing I was just going to mention is we're also hosting in January a program presentation geared toward property managers and landlords. We've been getting communications, and this is actually was done before we got any communications, but the state also let us know that they had come through to do some enforcement and follow-up from complaints they had received from tenants related to certain property sites that had multiple family dwellings, apartment complexes where there wasn't any food scrap collection being done, or recycling in this case. But more importantly, that is an area of weakness we have in the way of outreach that we need to improve on. So what we're doing is hosting a presentation at the Bennington Free Library on Saturday, January 27th. And it's intended to help them understand, them being the landlords and property managers, how what their responsibilities are in the way of providing food scrap collection receptacles if they provide trash as part of their lease agreements with their tenants, and how to best manage that, help get the tenants on board and understand to do implementation so that they have greater success and less likelihood of just a mess in the end. We started by sending out ordered a mass distribution of postcards to Bennington area landlords and property managers that we know of through our database, or the town of Bennington. If you have a list of in your towns of property managers with 4 or more units that you know of, and you can send that information to us, that would be great. We could include it on another round mailing that we're going to do in early January as another reminder to the set we sent to this time around, but also to those, because the more we get, the merrier we are, right? So it's a nice graphic, 5.5 by 8 inch big postcard, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. Hopefully we'll get the attention of the intended audience to come and attend the event on that Saturday, the 27th. But please send any data sheet sets you have with that address information, and we'll get it included in the next merge file we do with the mailing service. So,
and this is just a note, because we did have a very brief conversation about the potential for about our policy of reporting things last board meeting. I haven't done the follow-up with the other solid waste management entities to see if they have any official policies. So also expect that to be on a future board meeting agenda. But the state, and again, we were on a conference call, Paul and I, earlier today. The state has been making noises saying that they will begin to start picking up on their enforcement efforts a lot more, not just with the food scrap ban, but also with making sure that recycling is in place in places. So it is something that is in the pipeline for the state, and they're giving us a little bit of warning signals that we should be aware that this is going to start happening as far as them issuing tickets and citations. Probably starting in the 2024 year related to waste in a way that they haven't been doing at least for the past 5 years or so.
Yeah, and furthermore, to add on to that, I know Josh also said during that meeting that he's actually going to be holding solid waste management entities accountable, not for waste diversion, but to hold to their solid waste implementation plans, which we're all in compliance. We're in no problem there, but that's what he was really driving home, that there's some areas that, they get the plan, but they don't do anything to follow up, do the outreach, do the required visits to businesses and schools, that sort of thing, which is, he says it's not fair for all of you to do your thing, and then the rest of the people that don't feel like it don't feel any pain of not complying. So he says we're going to change that. So
Yeah, so I'm probably more concerned for Land Grove than for us.
okay.
I have a question. Do we have an updated target date for the only landfill in Vermont to be filled and closed? I thought it was in the 30s at one point, but I don't know.
Where is
Because-
this? Where are you talking?
Coventry.
The Coventry landfill.
They're looking to expand it, not fill it.
Well, I mean, Shaftesbury was looking to expand theirs and Powell and
Right.
I mean, so all these little landfills have closed, and the mountains that we're building with this stuff. I mean, it seems to me that would be a nice piece to encourage people to recycle and compost. And if you have that number out there, once that gets filled and is no longer available, we have no other place in Vermont. That's going to have to be trucked to the ocean for the whales, I guess, or wherever
Yeah.
they take it. It's going to go somewhere else.
For the Vermont Railroad to haul the trash to probably where everyone else hauled it. I
Right.
guess.
Ohio actually.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it, and I use that in my outreach to discuss at public presentations, as a trivia question on Saturday. I said, does anybody know where our landfill is? And everyone started naming their towns. And I said, no, that's a transfer station. I said, the only landfill is up in Coventry. And I said, that's at the Canadian border.
Right.
And I said, and it's not feasible to truck trash up there from southern Vermont. It just is not
Right.
cost
That's
effective.
going to New York.
I said, so they truck it over state lines and incinerate it.
They do, does Casella go over state lines right now to
Yeah.
New York? So
I don't
they
know
got-
exactly where
Yeah,
I
they do.
can, yeah, they do.
I've seen them going out because they're right down below my
Yeah,
house.
they go past my
They go at
apartment building every day.
346.
So I live,
Yeah.
in Music Falls, they come through.
And I drove up to Quebec City last week, and tons of Casella trucks are heading up to Coventry.
Yeah, so it's something that, it's whatever is feasible for them and makes
Sure.
financial sense, but, my last understanding was they had a permit, approval process they were trying to get through to extend the actual footprint of it, because it was, they had about 5 years left of capacity, and that was a year or two ago, and I don't know where we are now, but I know they were going through a permitting process to extend it.
When did they put the ski slopes in?
Yeah,
I know.
that's right.
Well, Shaftesbury was like that. When I moved to Shaftesbury in '74, we drove down and dumped our stuff down in this big ditch. When they closed it, it was a mountain, and that's Shaftesbury. That's how many folks live there. It's like,
But we have one of those big mountains, and we have one, not a big mountain, it's flat, and that's one we've been dealing with for over 4 years.
yep,
And the state's not going it. Oh, they're blaming COVID. They had everything before that. The one young engineer started it, wife got pregnant, had a baby, she got pregnant, had another baby, and it's like, I mean, this is how fast the wheels are spinning in Montpelier.
yeah, yep. Well,
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the only other thing on the agenda then right now is just a next track plastic film baler. That's just a quick announcement that, Paul has continued conversations with businesses in the Manchester area, because next track is interested in installing a plastic film baler in the area to collect commercial packaging
Yeah.
plastic film.
I did try J.K. Adams as well. I had a really nice conversation with the CEO at the last Dorset Farmers Market I did a couple of weeks ago. And he hooked me up with Sean Osborne, who's his creative director. And so I lobbied a soft serve of a proposal over to them. I haven't heard, but we'll see. And I also had, I will check again with RK Miles in the spring. it's not a site program that's for everybody, because if you do it right, you've got to have enough warehouse space to hold the bales. Got to have 3-phase power. You need a forklift. You need some manpower to do it, but if it's the right fit for the right organization, it could do well, could make money for them too. So, or at least cover their operational costs, and it's great for the community to get all that stuff out of the landfill. So.
Sure, absolutely. Excellent.
Okay.
So other than Nick's son, who's already contributed public comments, do we have any other public comments?
There's no one else on the call, so.
All right, next meeting.
I'm here. Sorry, this is Linda. It always takes me forever to find the unmute button. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I'm so new here. This is all just always all new information for me. But the Fix It Day is especially interesting. I will absolutely spread the word about that in Sandgate. And also about book collection. I have mentioned that to everybody. That I have to say personally, that's a little bittersweet because I work for a publishing company, and it makes me sad to think of all those books sitting in a bin somewhere. But anyway, I will spread the word in Sandgate, and thank you.
And Linda, if you'd like to meet separately and go over some of the stuff, and I can catch up a little more, I'm happy to do that. Also,
Thank you.
it'd be nice to do some improved outreach in Sandgate specifically because
Yes.
they were. Despite having, you have a very large population, but your percentage of participation at the household hazardous waste collections was lower than the other towns. So
yeah, and I did mention that after this group's last meeting, but we can certainly do more to spread that word.
great. So next meeting. So early February or mid-February? Sound right?
That's for let's say the 7th.
The 7th.
Unless we want to be on Valentine's Day, which I'm not sure
No.
what it is.
Nope.
But
The 21st, I don't think I'm gonna make it up here after they replace my knee, so.
Or we could push it till after the Fix It Fair if you want a little more report on how that went. Because the Fix It Fair is happening just on the
17th, yeah.
so we
17th.
want to push it to just a March meeting, because then we don't want to do it the first week of the day after town meeting.
Oh, that's right.
So it's probably, we're looking at like the 13th to 20th of March.
We could do the February 28th though as well.
I don't want to add meetings 5 days before town meeting. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, right, fair enough. Understandable.
So 7th of February or the 13th or 20th of March would be best.
13th of March.
Yeah, you do
Sound
13 too.
Yeah, as long as it's within the court, that's fine. Actually, I just looked at our bylaws. We only need to have 3 meetings a year, not 4.
We've been doing so many because of
Yeah, we've been doing
Lot
more.
going on.
HSW facility
Right.
and budget changes to that.
But, so whatever works with you guys, whichever you
The
prefer.
13th.
Yep.
March,
13th.
March
Yeah,
13th?
fine.
March 13th, great.
Same time, same place,
Same time, same place.
4 p.m. At our wonderful host, Arlington.
We don't have any snow by February.
Any other business that anyone would like to discuss? We have a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Have a nice-
Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Dixie.